Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, or just whenever. Welcome to ACFC. And Scotland currently sit joint top of their World Cup qualification group, having played, on paper, the toughest game and the biggest banana skin. And that is, also on paper, quite unlike them. A really hard-fought 0-0 in Copenhagen was followed up by a dominant 2-0 win in just what is quite literally the setting of all my recurring COVID nightmares, and this puts them in a really strong position to grab that playoff spot or potentially even automatic qualification if they fancy having a go at Denmark in the return leg at Hampden. But why am I here, you understandably ask? Well, I have thought for a very long time that this Scotland team is so close, so close to being a genuine force internationally, and across those two games, I think there were signs that they've arrived at a position where they won't just qualify for an international tournament, but they could potentially properly compete at one as well. So I want to tell you why. Now, there is one other reason why we're here today, and that's because I intend to improve your life immeasurably by introducing you, if you're not already familiar, with Nutmeg. If you follow me on any of the 200 social medias, you'll know I've been doing stuff with them for a little while, but this video here, since it is about Scottish football, and they make the best thing about Scottish football, is just a little partnership for you. Amongst other things, they produce this absolutely stunning quarterly magazine, and it's just full, look, of just these brilliant footballing stories, all made in Scotland, like me. There is a link in the description, how very original of us, and if you go to that, you will get 20% off, I'll keep this brief, a Nutmeg season ticket, which is 4 issues, an entire year's worth of the magazine, and a 12-month subscription to everything on the website, which occasionally includes me. And if you want an endorsement, I will simply say, I'm doing a lot of fun stuff right now, but this is one of the funnest. I love this. Anyway though, right, Scotland, why do I find myself biting my bottom lip in excitement every single time I watch them at the minute? Because it's certainly not because they've become this free-flowing goal-scoring machine, is it? Like, over the last 12 months, that Croatia result was really impressive, but largely down to the first half sending off, and that 1-0 against Greece did feel promising, yes, but of course, they then absolutely chucked it in the return leg and got beat 3-0. They then put in the single worst Iceland performance I've seen since that Kerry Katona advert, and beating Liechtenstein does not really count because out of 210 recognised FIFA nations, they are 204th, which purely in terms of population is the equivalent of playing Glenroth. You know, the third biggest town in Fife. But the thing is, right, and very conveniently for me who was making this video, when you are a nation of Scotland's stature, being good and competitive at international football is not actually about scoring loads of goals. What it's about is being really solid and compact when you have to be, but also having something that is both unpredictable and undefendable at the top end of the pitch. And I think if you watched both those Scotland qualifiers, I know they didn't exactly set your pulse racing, but I would say for the first time, they tick all 3 of those boxes. Now, this was the 11 in that game, and I do think average positions are sort of an imperfect data thing, because if you move any player around positionally during the match, it makes it all completely useless. But this was back in a 4-2-3-1, which was in reality just basically a 4-4-2. And if we look at those average positions, you can see exactly why that was. Like, the way the data is collected here, it's always going to come out as more of a 2-4-4, but you can see the lines being pretty straight. You can see those are consistent banks across the pitch. And of course, if you watch the game, you will have seen they were just in this proper neeps and tatties low block. They barely saw the ball. They had like 27% possession. Denmark dominated the play, and yet came out with a comparable number of attempts on goal. They had 3/4 of the ball, and the chances were 50-50-ish. In fact, I'd say this was the best chance of the game, and it comes after Scotland soak up pressure and then release quickly up the field. Like 3 passes, and they've gone from here to here. And were Lyndon Dykes not wearing a pair of Dr. Martens, seemingly, I think they smash and grab this 1-0. So this is just what Scotland can look like when they are up against it. Tricky away tie against a better team with better players, a hostile crowd barely seeing the ball. And if they just had a little bit more, a little bit extra, a little jeu de vie, a little, what is that in Scottish? Doty. I've not been up there in a while. They could have got more than just a point. I'll just show you what I mean, right? So Scotland defend this situation, I think, really, really well because they're incredibly deep. Like, this is the back four here, and you're going to see the midfield all understand what their jobs are. They're not just there. First off, Robertson gets dragged out to make room for this, I think, is Dolberg, but Ferguson's job is to make this a back five when required, so he tracks him to plug this gap. You can see Christie's also got dragged along to prevent a 1 versus 1, so Robertson can take a position that stops the winger going down the byline. Basically, between them, they're going to force Denmark to play it backwards. And what Denmark do here is really, really good because they set up a rotation between these players that opens up the space down the right. The run from the winger is inside, which pulls Robertson and Christie with him, allowing the fullback to then push up into this space. And this is the sort of stuff that good teams spend hours working on a training ground. This is them trying to break down a low block. But now, do you remember Ferguson and Dolberg? Yeah, well, having dragged him into the back line and with this cross about to come in, Ferguson has to sort of hold his position there because 90% of crosses in that situation you would expect come down this line, and because he can't know what's around him, he has to be in that position to potentially head it away. And he certainly can't see that Dolberg, after having done that run in, has now done the run back out completely on his blind side. He's dropped back into this exact space his movement has made. Ferguson can't watch him and the ball at the same time, and when the cross is a cutback, he then reacts, but it's all beautifully worked. It's dummied, he steps over it, and this should open Scotland wide up for Højbjerg to get a really good effort at goal. Like, Denmark have done everything right in this situation. They've set a rotation out wide. They've moved players into positions they don't want to be in. They've found space both out wide and in the centre and then connected both of those with a quality delivery. Scotland should be here. But look at the number of bodies, look at the reaction, look at Scott McTominay being alive to the danger and getting the block in. Now, am I overanalyzing one tiny part of the game? Yes! Of course I am, have we met? But this is really good, dynamic, clever play from Denmark that Scotland individually and collectively managed to defend really well. And that's the sort of defending that will translate against even better sides. There's just a great understanding of collective principles, of individual responsibility. It's a really good sign for me, who's mad. But I know what you're all going to say, right? Because it's the exact same thing I'm thinking. Scotland's problem consistently over the years has never really been giving the big teams a game, has it? Like, they always tend to sort of hold their own against sides that are allegedly superior. It's how they then take those fundamentals of defending well and sort of working really hard and then scale that up into games where they should dominate the opposition, where they do get a lot of the ball, where they should be on top, and then being ruthless, putting teams away. That always tends to be the problem, doesn't it? Now, I am going to yap here for a second, right? So just bear with me. Regardless of what formation you are starting with, if you want to really be on top in a game of football, what you're looking to do these days is find a way to get 5 players consistently and comfortably into the same attacking line, right? Without any of them being wildly out of position or doing things they're not comfortable doing, and without completely destabilizing the players behind them at the same time. And Steve Clarke Scotland have never really been able to do this. Like, even when they had the back three with the 2 wing backs, whenever one of them pushed on, remember, the other one used to tuck across and become a fullback, and they would have a back 4. They've never had the ability to overload the top end like this until now. Granted, it's only Belarus, but it's always only somebody, and I've still never seen them do this as well or as consistently as in the last 2 games. Right from the very first minute, Scotland had that front line of 5, Doak out on the left, Max Johnston on the right, Adams tying up both central defenders in the middle, and McTominay and McGinn able to concentrate their play into these channels here, where they do their best work. And Scotland, in the first goal in that game, due to Belarus, what Denmark tried and failed to do to them. So look, there you go. There is that front five. They have Belarus stretched so far out, and just like Robertson, in this scenario, their fullback now has to go out. And again, just like Dolberg did here, Lewis Ferguson has joined in. He's pulled a defender in with him to plug this gap and is now jogging back out to see if he'll go with him to open up that space. And that's why in the Denmark example, I said Ferguson probably did the right thing standing there and waiting for the cross, because you can see whoever this is just starts following him around like a lost dog, and already this is beginning to open up. But the difference here is that rather than work a rotation and go for a cutback, Scotland's best weapon would undoubtedly be Scott McTominay in the air, so they use that. The second this ball is in flight, just look at the scenario we've got here. The width has done this, and the movement has done this. Any header back across, and it's a goal, which it is, and it is. So this system, this return to a 4-2-3-1, I think finally gives Scotland the adaptability they've been lacking. Because as we've seen, you can just do it as a 4-4-2, it can drop, it can be compact, it can be hard to break down, but if you have Ben Doak in it, it's also very attacking. Like McGinn and McTominay, they can move up and play around Adams, which gives you that nice narrow three in the middle. And whether it's Hickey or it's Johnston, you get all your width down that side from a really energetic, aggressive fullback. And then you can simply shuffle these lot into a 3 and a 2. Andy Robertson gives you the ability to be a left-sided centre-back, but also he's so bloody good and experienced, if you're feeling absolutely mad, he can also give you a 2-3 as well, which again, adaptability. And you can see that clear as chips on the position graph for this game. Like, you've got your attacking front five there. Your right back, even more aggressive than your right-sided attacker. And you can see, illustrated nicely by Andy Robertson being perfectly in the middle, that sometimes there's a 2 and a 3, and sometimes there's a 3 and a 2. They've finally found a way to do this. And the beauty of it is you can get even more aggressive with it if you want to. Like, Doak wants to come in field here, which if you've got Robertson loitering in this area, allows him to get round on the overlap like he really wants to do, but probably can't for 90 minutes. That gives you a 6th player in there if you want it. Also, Ferguson's an absolute machine. He'll run up and down all day. So if you can manage to create a bit of space for him, he gets into those areas as well. And given that this system is so vulnerable to getting counter-attacked against, you've seen what happens to all the really top teams. Billy Gilmore, security on the ball. He will not give that away. If you lose it, chances are most of your team are going to be behind it. They don't get robbed when they're vulnerable. So my point here is not that I think Scotland are going to go and win the World Cup, but that's never been the objective, has it? Like, first it was to start qualifying for these tournaments more regularly, and now it is to be better at them. It is to be more competitive. And I think the way they look at the minute, I would say they are. Like, the system they're using makes them so hard to break down against teams that are better than them, which they're going to come up against a lot of, but also without making major changes, using the same approach, it adapts into something that's going to serve them a lot better when they do start seeing the ball. Like, they started both these games in a 4-2-3-1, and then they had like 27% of the ball against Denmark, and then Belarus had 27% of the ball against them. That might not be completely accurate, I forgot to check, but it's about that, isn't it? So the same approach with largely a lot of the same players saw them absolutely fine for being solid, for being insecure, but also being fun and being attacking. And they got the point they wanted in Copenhagen and the 3 points they wanted in whatever nightmare realm this was. So yes, there you go. The future's bright, the future's orange, as they say, but just in the sense that I think we're quite likely to be seeing those funny hats with the ginger wigs under them in America this summer. But never mind that bad joke. Let me know what you made of all of this in the comments below. Of course, don't forget to like the channel, share the channel around to your friends, subscribe to the channel. That makes my head and my heart grow even bigger, and you get me across all the social medias right here. That's my name. And obviously, thank you to the Nutmeg team who are working with on this video, the brilliant home of brilliantly written, brilliant stories about Scottish football, which is brilliant. There's a link in the description for you, something ACFC, and that gets you 20% off the season ticket, which is 4 issues of this. That's an entire year's worth of beautiful magazine and 12 months of everything on the website. I really hope that's correct, which it is. And obviously I'm not massively impartial because I do stuff with them and I think they're brilliant, but that's your endorsement, isn't it? I do stuff with them, and I think they're brilliant. So treat yourself, in my opinion, and I will see you at the next international break. Goodbye!